check it out. The burdock is up. Right after we seeded, we got a nice steady rain, not too hard, which is perfect. And these really reacted to that. We got a good coverage, good germination. I'm so happy with this year. It's better than last year. But as you can also see, the weeds also kind of started as well. So we don't have much time here because this field is pretty much exactly an acre. And once the weeds come, I'm gonna have to manage this myself. So it's gonna take a lot of time. And that's when I kind of let other things slip away from me. But not this year. No, not this year. So we're gonna take advantage of this time right now, let these grow. There's still some germinating, so I'm not gonna be weeding until maybe next week. So we're gonna make sure that some of our other crops don't slip away from us because there are a few that are in need of maintenance. So we're gonna go do that right now. So burdock is a biennial plant, meaning that it has a lifespan of 2 years after seeding. The first year the plant grows, and it's during the second year that it creates a flower and goes to seed. We harvest during the first year because we're harvesting the root, and that's the point where all the medicinal properties are at their strongest in the root. Because during the second year, when that plant is going to push for a flower, it needs energy, so it pulls all that energy that was stored in the root. So the root becomes a lot smaller and woody and useless to us. So we're able to turn that crop over once a year. But we do have certain crops that are either perennials, meaning that the plant survives year after year after year and produces for us, or annuals that either seed or come back up through roots or whatnot. That's the case on either side of me. To my left is my poor yarrow bed. This has been yarrow for a very long time. We planted it in 2 rows, and over the years it would come back thicker and thicker, and eventually the whole bed was yarrow, and it worked really well for a long period of time. But as you can see, the quackgrass has kind of taken over and there's not much for yarrow. I left it as is because there's still some yarrow there. They will produce flowers for us, so we're going to harvest what we can get. But we're going to need to turn this over, and it's good to rotate the crops anyway. So when that's done, I'm going to put this back to earth, and we're going to move to our new yarrow bed, which I'm standing on right now, freshly transplanted, and this will be our new bed for yarrow for the years to come. To my right is what we're going to be dealing with today. That's our peppermint. We have 2 beds of peppermint here, and as you can see, the weeds have kind of taken over. It was a hard winter for the peppermint. They didn't quite come back fast enough, but the weeds just took over when they could. As soon as the sun hit in the spring, the weeds just took over. It would be easy to trash this in and just start over because I do have some peppermint plants, but it is a slow grower for us. And I want to see if I could get what I can out of this because it's a good seller as well. There's a few other crops too that we're going to be doing some maintenance on. It's never fun, this stuff, because you can't pass with a weeder or with any machines. It's all by hand, but we got to do what we got to do, and while we have the time, we're going to take care of that. So let's see how this goes. Hopefully this isn't a total waste of time, but we won't know until the end of the season now, will we? All right, we are done here. God, there was a minute, there was a second there I thought I would never end. It's pretty hot today, but that's good actually, because all the weeds that I've taken out of the beds and put in between the rows, they all have their roots exposed. In this heat to the sun, they are just flat out dead. So the one thing that we got to do now, after I usually do the weeding, I pass with the tractor in between the rows. We rake this up and disturb the soil just to make sure all the weeds are dead and there's no more grow back. Try to do it when it's dry like this. That way, if we were to do it right before rain, there's a chance that the roots, especially the grasses, will set root again, and we don't want that. But before we go, I want to show you one more perennial. There's one more perennial that we have to visit, and that is the blueberries. Now, why are we here? If you remember, I have been pruning these for the past few years, and this year I finished that. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it up here. You should go check that out. It wasn't my worst video. Anyway, so the reason why we're here is because I would think in late April or beginning of May, we got hit with some cold weather, and we lost about, I would say, 15 to 20% of the blueberry patch. It is just dead. What does that mean? How much is that exactly? Well, from right here where I'm standing to over here to all the way back here. So what basically happened is these blueberries were unpruned for years, and they were just overgrown, and there was trees growing in here, and the vines, or the branches that were there, were very old and very large. So it took a lot of the plant's energy just to maintain those, just to push leaves and whatnot out. So eventually they stopped fruiting because it just took too much energy to get from the root all the way up through that through the wood to push fruit. So I've been pruning them. Now, this isn't a total loss, and while I was pruning them, they do respond really well. I've been getting more and more and more fruit. The point of the pruning wasn't for fruit. The point was to stimulate new growth. And it's that new growth that in a few years is going to be the main part of the plant, and they're going to produce the most fruit. So this isn't a sad story, because at the bottom, which I'll show you, at the bottom of each of these plants that from a distance look completely dead, there's all this new growth. All this in here, these are new shoots. The portion that froze was what I'd pruned last year. It wasn't what I had done this year, it was last year. So that pruning stimulated the growth of these new shoots, and this was growth from previous year, from last year. So had I not done this and we got that same cold snap, this would have been a total loss, because this new growth wouldn't have been here. It couldn't be here. This was completely covered in old vines and trees and whatnot. The light wasn't hitting the crown, and the plant just did not have enough energy or motivation, really, like me sometimes, to push out new shoots. So this is okay. Yeah, it kind of sucks because these did have buds on them, and those are fruiting buds, and fruiting buds means I could get more money, and but it doesn't matter. That was never the point of this. This is a long-term pruning, and we still have, 80% of our patch that is going to produce, so it could still be a good year, but this is the future of this patch. All right, enough of that. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I am going to go take care of that tractor work we talked about. See you next time.